Hi, I'm John. This is my show, An American Scheme, where I am proving that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's actual mother. So yesterday I started listening to Mary Wilson's book, this Supreme Faith. I was listening to the audiobook. I really enjoy when they have the audiobook recordings here on YouTube, and it's like instead of having to go buy the book and then having to actually read it, because I don't like to read books. It's like after I get through a couple of pages, the lines start to blur, you know, and then so I just don't really like reading and stuff, right? So I really enjoy the audiobooks because that's the book. And then actually the audiobook's even better than the book, because most of the time the person narrating the audiobook is the writer. Like, so it's Mary Wilson, you know, so she's given her little attitude to it and stuff. It's just so much better, right? So I've heard Diana Ross's audiobook, I've heard Berry Gordy's audiobook, you know, Michael Jackson's Moonwalk book is in there. Like I've heard all these books now because of YouTube and the audiobook, so it's really cool. So I started listening to this one, and I was probably like 50 minutes into it, because the time is 3 hours and 6 minutes, okay, which is not bad. 3 hours to be able to get through a whole book, that's pretty good time, you know, but it is still 3 hours, and it's hard for me to actually dedicate 3 hours like consistently through and stuff, right? And then it's her story, so her story, it's about her life story. It is Supremes, but it's also all of the Supreme stuff in the 70s. It's a lot of other stuff. So there's a lot of other stuff there that's not like actually related to my story and stuff, because that's what I'm actually looking for, is the information related to my story and stuff. And then there's the other thing, right, is that I know that Mary Wilson wrote the book Dreamgirls, right? And so I've seen the movie Dreamgirls, right? So I understand like what's going on in that movie and the relationships. And I understand that there's scandalous stuff, you know, that's supposed to be in the book. And I actually heard Diana Ross, I believe she was on the Oprah Winfrey show, and Oprah asked Diana Ross, have you seen Dreamgirls? And Diana Ross said, no, I haven't seen it. I'm going to watch it with my lawyers. It's like one of those things, like, dang, right? But so, just the other day, because we're talking about this, Smokey Robinson now has come out and admitted to having an affair with Diana Ross. He's still vague about the date of which it's occurring and stuff, right? But he has admitted to actually having an affair with Diana Ross while he was married to Claudette, right? He's saying he had an affair with her, right? And it's like one of those things. It's like, okay, so Smokey Robinson admits to having an affair while he's married to Claudette. He admits to having an affair with Diana Ross. So if he's willing to do that, why wouldn't he have been willing to have sex with her when he was 18 and she's 14 and they're in her house and he's only dating Claudette at that time? He hasn't married her and stuff, right? If he's willing to have an affair with Diana, you know, when he's married, why wouldn't he be willing to just have sex with Diana when they were younger? And then why is he willing to have that affair? Because they had sex prior when they were younger. That's what enables him to have this relationship with Diana later. See, my story always holds up, right? My story always holds up. So Smokey was saying that he's just admitted to having the affair, but I went back and I watched some of the other videos, and there was one of the videos I was watching about Smokey. They asked him the question, and what they said, though, is they said, Mary Wilson said in her book Dreamgirls, or I think they actually just said Mary Wilson said in her book. That's what he said. He said, the person said, Mary Wilson said in her book that she claimed that you had an affair with Diana Ross. And Smokey Robinson said, that is totally not true. He said, that's not true. But now he's come back and said, that is true, right? So that's what I'm saying. And see, this is the kind of thing I would do with the fans. They would come at me and say, like, let's say, because I'm doing the Michael Jackson stuff, if it was the Michael Jackson fans, they would use these things that Michael Jackson says. And I'm saying, well, look they're always lying. It's the media stuff. They can't just come out and tell you the truth. And I would use an example to show you. Look this is what Smokey was saying earlier. They would ask him the question about the affair with Diana. He said, that is not true at all. Not at all. But now he's come back and admitted to it. Yes, it is true. I did have an affair with her. So it's like, okay, well, what's the other? There's still more to the story and stuff, right? So, So I was going to listen to this book, and I was going to listen to see if I could find that clip where Mary Wilson accused Smokey of having an affair with Diana. But then, like I said, I'm 50 minutes into it and seeing like the pattern of how this is going. I don't think that that's going to be in this book. I think it's in the Dreamgirls book, which I don't know if the Dreamgirls has the complete audio book here in YouTube. There is something there. I'll have to check it out and stuff, and I'll have to go through that one. But I think that that's where it's, because I've seen that movie too, the Dreamgirls. I have seen that movie, so I understand the context of that movie, and because there's like the relationship in the movie The Dreamgirls where the girl that's like the Diana Ross character starts dating the leader of the record company, which would be the Berry Gordy company, which would be the Berry Gordy character, right? So there's like scandalous stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure it's the Dreamgirls book that I need to listen to hear that accusation, which I'll dig into that further. But I did find a couple really cool things here in this, and I'm going to point those out to you. And so I wanted to show you also this. This is because like I told you, that Dreamgirls is the book written by Mary Wilson. It's supposed to be like the story about the Supremes and stuff, right? So this is Michael Jackson, and this says 1983, right? So, and you can see he's got his Beat It jacket on, so you understand this is the era. It says 1983, so that's probably about right. And so this is Michael Jackson going to see the play. There was a play called Dreamgirls before the movie a long time ago. It originally came out, and there was like a play, right? So this is Michael Jackson going to see that play Dreamgirls. And now you got to think too, when this is about Diana Ross and about the creation of the Supremes and stuff, this involves Michael Jackson's life. He's involved in this story, right? And he's involved. He sees things differently because of like the Mary Wilson and stuff. They don't know about the relationship with Diana getting pregnant by Smokey and then Barry talking to him. None of them know that happened. None of them understand that that's the relationship between them, but like Michael would know, right? So when Michael's watching Dreamgirls, he's seeing things in it that Mary Wilson doesn't even know is occurring. Mary Wilson would be talking about things, but she doesn't actually understand the answers, but there's things that Michael would understand the answers, right? So this is Michael coming to go see the Dreamgirls.
Before the shroud of secrecy enveloped him, Michael lived a sometimes open public life. When the play Dreamgirls premiered in Los Angeles, he gave E.T. his review.
It's the most incredible play I've ever seen. It's brilliant.
Okay, most incredible play I've ever seen. It's brilliant, right? So that's Michael Jackson talking about that Dreamgirls thing, because I just wanted you to understand that we're talking about the Dreamgirls thing. And like, so a lot of people might think, well, how is this related to Michael? It's related to Michael. And what did Michael just say about the play, the Dreamgirls? Most incredible play I've ever seen. It's brilliant, right? So this is the kind of stuff that's like, it's intertwined, but people like the Michael Jackson fans always want to dodge everything. And then they want to not give significance to the importance of this information and stuff, right? So this is going to be a little clip here. I'm going to play a couple. I have two little parts marked down. This right here, I'm on her audiobook. I'm listening to it just so you can know the times. I try and give as much information as I can if you guys ever want to go listen to this stuff too. The reason I'm saying this too is the time. As I want you to understand is I'm not taking things out of context, right? Now, I'm only going to play a little part, but it's not like I'm taking that little part and then it contradicts, the next line's contradicted. It's not that I'm playing that little part because I have to. There are certain little technical things where I do that and stuff, but it's only because the part that we're listening to overrides anything else and stuff, and I'll make that decision to say, look, I'm not nitpicking here and choosing my little parts and stuff. I always try and show as much as I can. So like I'll say, this right here I'm on 611. On the audiobook. That's the part I'm at here. So let's listen to this part here.
In Barry's mind, no single member was greater than any act, and no act was greater than the label. Not Flo, not me, and in the very end, not even Diane.
See? No. So in Barry's mind, there was no single person that was bigger than the act. Because there's like, if you ever watched the movie The Temptations, they really pound that into that nobody's bigger than the band, that the band is what it is, right? But then she also says, and no single band is bigger than the label, than Motown, right? And she starts it off by saying, in Barry's mind, right? So this is one of the main things I've been trying to say, is that Berry Gordy's Motown. Right? He's Motown. He doesn't let people push him around. He's in control, right? He's totally in control. And there's no single person that's bigger than the act, and there's no act that's bigger than the label. And what I keep trying to show you, I show you over and over and over again, then how did this happen? Motown 25, yesterday, today, and forever. as Michael Jackson is up there performing a solo act, singing the song Billie Jean, which is a new song that's being released. So now, like, this is like one of those things, okay? So I believe that's Epic Records, right? So they would have had to pay Epic royalties from the airing of Motown 25 because Barry allowed this song to be performed on his show. So how in the hell is Berry Gordy gonna have a show called Motown 25 that's all about the history of Motown, but now Barry's paying royalties to another record company because he allowed Michael Jackson to perform a song that wasn't a Motown song? And you go, this is in the early stages of the Thriller era too. It's not like it's not like Thriller has exploded and Thriller's the greatest selling record of all time. It's like I'm very sure that the video for like the Thriller video, you know, that revolution. Now, Billie Jean and Beat It were huge, you know, and Say Say Say. I remember when the videos were coming out, like the Say 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 video with Paul. I loved, like, when I would be at home and I'd be watching the videos on MTV back in that time and stuff, and like the Say 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 video, loved the Say 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 video, right? And so I loved it, right? And so, but the Thriller video, and it's one of those things in life too, is that I happened to miss school that day, and I happened to be home, didn't know that they were going to show the world premiere of Thriller, right? This is one of those really cool things about being a Michael Jackson fan, like these cool experiences that I have from being back in the day. So I happened to be home from school, right? So I'm at home, I'm watching MTV, and it was at noon, my time on the West Coast, it was at noon. And all of a sudden they say, world premiere. And I've looked back now and I've understood that was the first world premiere video that aired on MTV. The first world premiere video that they ever aired on MTV was Michael Jackson's Thriller. That's what I'm trying to show to you, is that Thriller was different in a way that was like revolutionary. Okay, like Billie Jean and Beat It are cool videos, and the Say Say, they're really cool videos and stuff, right? But Thriller, this was a whole new, this you know, this was a totally different, this was completely different. And I'm highlighting that by showing you that was the video that was the first world premiere video on MTV. Because like a few people don't know, like when MTV was big, a lot, because MTV hadn't been around a long time. But so then after that, whenever these big bands would come out with their first video, they would always be like, the world premiere, you know, the world premiere video. That ended up being a big thing on MTV. But the first one was Thriller, right? And then, you know, so then Thriller becomes the largest selling album of all time. Okay, but this is before all that, right? So now, if Michael had become like the Thriller and the greatest selling record of all time, then I could understand where he might say, well, you know what? Michael's going to give us such a ratings boost by performing the Billie Jean. It's going to create such a ratings boost that let's put it in there for that, right? But this is before all that stuff happened. This is in the early stages of the Thriller is when this is occurring. This is still early in the stages. So you don't have any of that. So this helps launch Michael's career for another record label. This is allowing Berry Gordy now is assisting another record label at making money for an act who's not signed to Motown anymore. Michael's not on Motown. This doesn't benefit him anyway. And like I just showed you, what Mary Wilson just said is that no single person is bigger than the act. So why would Berry Gordy acknowledged Michael Jackson as an individual when the Jackson 5 is the act that signed to Motown. So no individual is bigger than the act that's the Motown act, is the Jackson 5 act. That's what Berry Gordy would have wanted, is the Jackson 5. And Berry Gordy would not. If Michael was not going to do the thing, then Berry Gordy would have said, all right, go ahead. We've got plenty of other stars here. We don't need you. Do you think you built Motown? You know, that's the way Berry Gordy was. You think you're bigger than the record label? I mean, how insulting is it for Michael Jackson to demand to perform a song outside of Motown on the Motown 25? That would have insulted Berry Gordy. And he never would have allowed this to happen unless my story is true, and it was the abandoning of Michael Jackson that helped develop the Motown record label, which helped Berry Gordy get established through Michael Jackson's real parents of Smokey Robinson and Diana Ross. Now, Berry Gordy owes him. If Berry Gordy does not owe him something major, Michael never would have had the leverage to be able to pull this off. And it's not because the song is so great and the performance is so great. Berry Gordy looked at all of his stuff as the greatest stuff of all time. He had all these other great entertainers. He did not need this. He still would have owned Motown 25. Now, it wouldn't be Motown 25, right? But Berry Gordy would not see it that way, that he has to have this or else the Motown 25 is not going to be. He would never have thought about it that way. It just would not have ever been that way. This is something that could have never, ever existed. And then the fact that it's the song, that this is the song that I keep telling you, that Billie Jean is Diana Ross. And Berry Gordy would know that because, like I said to you, that Billie Jean, Berry Gordy has an employee at Motown named Billie Jean. And then Diana Ross played the character Billie Holiday. Berry Gordy would have been, since Berry Gordy's a songwriter, you think Berry Gordy didn't be able to hear those lyrics and understanding the true story? You think Berry Gordy didn't understand that this is about Diana Ross telling Michael that she was his mother? The way I tell you that that's what the story's about? Berry Gordy would have understood all of that stuff. And he allowed this to happen because there's a bigger thing at play here. And it's the relationship that Barry and Diana and the Barry and Smokey, how it all evolved, how Michael came back to Motown. That's a thing where it's God's hand is at play, and that's the kind of thing that Berry Gordy allowed. That's the kind of leverage, that this is God's hand at play, and I will allow God to do his business. Berry Gordy's not messing with God. Right, that's the thing. It's like, okay, no single person is bigger than the act. No single act is bigger than the label. And the label and the owner is not bigger than God. That's where Berry Gordy goes to, the understanding that this is God's thing. I'm not going to mess with God. That's how this is allowed to happen, because this never would have been allowed to happen. Then, I always been saying that, now, it was only through the process of my investigation that I learned about the relationship of Diana and Smokey and Barry. Okay, I was never that kind of fan. I was a Michael Jackson fan. I wasn't researching the history of Motown, because when you're into Michael Jackson, yeah, the Jackson 5 are cool and stuff, but I'm in the Michael Jackson era. I wouldn't be studying all of Motown. I just never, like I said, I didn't like to read books and stuff. Like, I have like 100 magazines that I collected from like the 83, 84 period. You can go see my old collection of my video. I have an old video with my collection and stuff, right, that I acquired during that 1984 period in time, right? So you'll see all of these magazines, right? I never read one of those magazines. I didn't read any of them. I was buying them for the pictures, I was buying them because Michael Jackson was on the cover, and back then those magazines were really cheap, and we were just collecting anything. I was collecting buttons and stuff. Like, why was I collecting the buttons? Because I liked the pictures. They were cool little buttons. They were just cool little stuff. I liked collecting them and stuff. That's the kind of stuff. I wasn't reading those magazines. That's why they're all in perfect condition, too. If you look at my magazines, they're all in perfect condition because I never opened those things up. I looked at them and then I put them away. I was just collecting them and shit, right? I wasn't reading them and shit. So, like I said, I wasn't reading, it just was not the kind of Michael Jackson fan I was and shit, right? So, now here's another part of the reason I was saying that stuff is like, so I was just trying to emphasize to you that I didn't know about the relationships with Diana, and I knew Diana and Michael had a relationship, but I didn't understand all of it and stuff. I didn't know anything about the Diana and Smokey and Berry Gordy and the development of Motown. I knew nothing about that stuff, but as my investigation went through and I then exposed, I said, look at this is what it's about. These are the people that are involved, right? And through my investigation, I tell you that Diana and Smokey have a relationship to Berry Gordy in which nobody else understands. And it's obvious when you go back and you actually look and see the events that are occurring and stuff. And then the Michael Jackson comes into play to show you that too, because like the Billie Jean performance at Motown 25, but he's the child of Diana and Smokey. That's why Barry's treating him differently and all of this. This is why it's allowed to happen. So here's Mary Wilson telling you that that's occurring, and it's one of these things that she doesn't actually understand why it is, but she knows it's happening, right? So this is at 3346. That's where I'm at here in the audiobook. So I'm at 3346. Let's listen to this.
Because it was the first time I'd been in the studio with Smokey since the early 60s, we did a lot of talking. We're making good records and working hard, but Motown isn't giving us the push, I told him. Smokey thought for a minute, then said, "Why don't you talk to Barry about it? I'm sure if you do, he'll take care of it." Smokey meant well. But he was like Diane, totally blinded by Berry's razzle-dazzle. Because Berry always treated Smokey and Diane differently than the rest of us, they see him differently than we do.
See, they see him differently. So their relationship is different. And Berry always treated Smokey and Diane. And there's like the little thing. She's calling her Diane because that's actually Diana's real name is Diane. It's not really actually Diana. That was like a thing that happened on her birth certificate, from what I understand. Is her name was supposed to be Diane, but the person on the birth certificate put Diana. And then so her close friends called her Diane. But she ended up just adopting the name Diana and going by that. You know, that's just like one little thing when that comes up and stuff, right? But so she clearly tells you that Berry Gordy treated Smokey and Diana different than the rest of us. And why would Berry Gordy treat them so differently than the rest of everybody else when it's Berry Gordy's Motown Records? It's like he said, no person is bigger than the act. No act is bigger than the label. Why is Berry Gordy giving these two people all this extra attention, which was clearly obvious because she states it right there. She's like having the conversation with Smokey, and Smokey saying, go talking to Berry, but inside her head, she's saying, I can't talk to Berry. Berry don't treat me the same as he treats you and Diane. That's what she's just said. Berry doesn't treat me the same as he treats you, Smokey. Berry doesn't treat me the same as he treats Diana, Smokey. Berry treats you guys different. And what are the two names she specifically emphasized of who Berry Gordy treats different than the rest of us? Smokey and Diana. It's like constantly, I'm not putting this stuff there. I didn't put those thoughts into her head. She told you from her own personal experience of witnessing it and having to go through it on her own. She told you directly, Berry treated Diane and Smokey different than the rest of us. Everything. She tells you right there, like just those few little words shows you exactly the story of what I'm saying, which should not exist unless you understand the true context of Michael Jackson's relationship to Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson and Berry Gordy and Motown. All this stuff, constantly, everywhere I look. This is one of the hard things for me to have to deal with, and like one of the reasons I haven't like delved into all of Michael Jackson's songs, why I don't constantly search and investigate that stuff, because you guys don't understand the pain and the burden that I have to carry from what I hear out of this stuff. And when I hear it, and it's like constantly, God damn, I hear this stuff and it's like, God damn, I can't believe that this stuff was going on so much and they were putting it right in our face over and over and nobody ever understood it. And then there's the thing about myself, the personal burden of what I have to carry, just like every Michael Jackson fan should have to carry, is that Michael Jackson died before I was able to see the truth and stuff, right? His whole life. So I was that same fan, the same ignorant loser and stuff who didn't, and I pride myself as being somebody who really studies the lyrics, and I can tell you exactly why. Because after I did LSD and I watched the movie Oliver Stone's The Doors, and I heard Jim Morrison, you know, because Jim Morrison is credited as being a great poet, because he is a poet. Jim Morrison was a great poet and stuff, because he has music and stuff that they did too off of his poetry and stuff. Like there's some of the stuff, like after he died, his the girl, I guess, was she married to him? I don't know if they were actually married and stuff, right? But like it's like Jim Morrison's parents and the girl, I can't think of her name right now and stuff, but Jim Morrison's girlfriend, they like split the ownerships to like Jim Morrison's music and stuff. But then there was a thing where like there was like unreleased tracks, so like the Morrison family got the ownership of the unreleased tracks, but her name's right there, I just can't believe I can't think of it. Pam wanted, she said, okay, I want the poetry. She says, okay, you can have those unreleased, so there was something like that. She told the Morrison family, okay, you can have those unreleased songs, but she says, I want the poetry. And because she knew who Jim Morrison was, she understood that the poetry was who he really was, and in the poetry was where his genius could be at, right? And then what happens, like after they died, they did an album of Morrison's poetry, and then the Doors made new music and did that album, and it's great and stuff, right? It's phenomenal and shit, right? But there's so much other stuff there when you actually know who these people are, when you know the truth and shit, right? And so that's what's going on with this whole Michael Jackson story, you know. What I was saying about that is that, so after I did acid and I heard the Morrisons' lyrics in the movie The Doors, and then I understood what poetry was, and I understand how creative and how like advanced these people were. And so I did, like, see, I'm 50 years old now, so that was, we're talking about back when I'm 20, right? So after I experienced that stuff, so I've been thinking, like I refer to it as thinking on a higher level, you know. You wake up, you start actually thinking and stuff, you start looking at things on a much bigger level throughout all of eternity, like the whole existence of mankind, our whole experience. It just completely opened me up and stuff and made me much more wise and shit, right? And so after that, I've always been really listening to lyrics and shit, right? But see, that's after I'm not the young Michael Jackson fan, so I never really went back and really analyzed Michael Jackson's lyrics after that. I just never did it and stuff. And so I never understood exactly. I don't know. I think face value. Plus, you would never look at it in the different picture of Michael not being a Jackson. That was the hardest thing to overcome. Just the same thing as hardest thing for everybody to overcome is that Michael's not actually a Jackson. When the mounds of evidence, because like I said, there is no doubt that it's proven that Michael Jackson was raised in the Jackson household, and from like the earliest age, when Michael leaves the hospital, Diana goes back to Detroit. Catherine takes Michael home. So, I mean, from the earliest stages, Michael was in that house. So that's a strong, and that's facts. I agree with that too. That's hard to overcome. People can't overcome that. But that's why you got to start looking at the other things. You got to be wiser. You got to have a larger understanding of human nature and the human behavior and see the relationships and the dynamic. And then you got to be able to understand lyrics. And when you look at things different, you'll start seeing that everything is explained by my story. And the things, and like I said, I even point out to the things that should not exist, like that Motown 25. It never should have existed. If Michael was just a part of the Jacksons, that would not have happened. It never would have existed. You think Berry Gordy's going to give royalty rights to another record? That he allowed that to happen? Because the epic records with Billie Jean being played on there, that means that every videotape that you see that's out there that's a Motown 25, they have the Motown 25 video, the money that they got for airing it on TV, a piece of that's got to go to Epic. They get paid for that. Just the fact that you people don't understand, it's like, dude, you think Berry Gordy would really allow that to happen? That was not going to be allowed to happen, but it did. It did happen and shit, right? It totally happened. And, it's constantly what's going on. It's just crazy shit about what's going on, but it's the truth and stuff, right? And all you got to do is be a Michael Jackson fan or be smart. Right? You don't even have to be a Michael Jackson fan. Some other people are just smart. People like Michael Jackson, and of course they're fans in certain ways and stuff, but they're just smart. And when they start hearing truth and stuff and hearing the information of what I'm putting out, the smart people just see that, oh, what this guy's doing is real. This is what a real investigation looks like. This is how real detailed explanations of the story, this is what it sounds like. I'm not some stupid MJ innocent loser fan. I mean, those people are pedophiles. As far as I see, as far as what I would concern is that anybody who says MJ innocent, you're a pedophile. You're supporting pedophiles and pedophile behavior, because what you're doing is endorsing the behavior, which is pedophile behavior. From any other person in the world that was acting in that same behavior and doing the same things Michael Jackson was, we'd all call him a pedophile, and we would demand it stop. We would demand that it not happen. We would call anybody else pedophiles. But you just think because Michael talks like this, and he does have great songs and shit, right? And so the people say, no, he's not a pedophile, so we're going to allow this, we're going to justify his behavior. You can't justify that behavior. If you're justifying that behavior on him, you're just justifying that behavior on other people who actually are pedophiles. So the whole MJ innocent people, those people are not Michael Jackson fans, because if you support behavior which enables a pedophile to prey on his victim, some young child, if you support that behavior, then that's what you're supporting. You're supporting pedophile behavior and kids being raped and molested and groomed and shit. That's what's happening. So all the MJ innocent people, they're all pedophiles and pedophile supporters and shit, because that's what you're actually happening, is because through your supporting of that stuff, that's what allows somebody like Matt's FTR to come into the Michael Jackson community, and what allows Matt's FTR to bring his pedophile homosexual lover, Eric Blade, if any of you people don't understand that Matt's FTR and Eric Blade are homosexual lovers. They had sex. If you don't think that Matt's FTR went to the UK and had sex with Eric Blade and his boyfriend, the Varys guy or whatever, if you don't think that they had a threesome, that they were all having sex together, then you guys are blind as hell. You don't understand anything. And so was that Ferris? Because I just seen a video today that the MJ Fandom Exposure put up on a short on his other page, and it had a video of the Eric Blaze saying he's 30 years old and the Varys guy saying he's 17. Okay, so, and we know they're having sex and shit, right? So that in alone, like I've always said, that Eric Blade is preying upon teenage boys and shit, right? That's who he's interested in, right? So, and why did Matt's FTR go over and visit him in the UK? Probably so Matt's FTR could have sex with that boy. How old was he at the time of that? So that right there alone, did Matt's FTR have sex with Eric Blade's boyfriend Ferris when Ferris was under the age of 18? Well, then I would think that that constitutes a fair enough for us to accuse Matt of being a pedophile too, right? Matt is a woman. When you see Matt cry, when you see Matt's FTR cry because of the relationship that had fallen out between him and Eric, Matt's the woman in the relationship. I mean, can you people not see that? The psycho woman. Matt's the psycho woman. And what does the psycho woman do? Like, this is the real world. These psycho women, because they're pissed off at their boyfriend, because what happened? Their boyfriend started having a relationship with some other young boy who Matt actually wants to have sex with, Scarabite. What it is Matt is not mad that Eric was messing around with Scarabite. Matt's mad because Matt wanted to have sex with Scarabite, and then Eric, his confidant gay lover, went in and started messing around with him. That's what Matt got mad about. Matt wasn't mad that Scarabite, or that Matt's not mad that Eric's messing around with Scarabite. Matt's mad that Eric's trying to weasel in on the young boy of who Matt's preying on. That's how it happens. And so that's what happens like with the woman. Then she feels betrayed. Then she turns. And what happens, a lot of women at that time will say, oh, my man raped me, and she'll send him to prison. She'll accuse him of rape. This shit fucking happens. These psycho women, they start doing all this crazy stuff. And you know that the woman is total psycho crazy once she starts crying and acting like a fucking madman, just like what Matt did. When Matt got on the phone and started crying and shit, he showed all the behavioral patterns and the characteristics of the psycho woman in the relationship. He's the woman in the relationship. Matt is homosexual. Eric was his homosexual lover, and then they both have a secret fondness for young boys because they both were involved in that joke saying, oh, well, we all have our preferences. That was between the both of them. It was not just a joke that Eric was saying. That was a joke that Matt and Eric were in on 100% together, that they said together and joked around on a live stream where there were young children present. And they're clearly pedophile behaviors. And so Matt turned on Eric. Matt definitely did not send anything to the police. Matt says, I sent this stuff to the police. He definitely did not do that. Matt did not do that. But what he's doing is he's trying to mess with Eric. He's trying to take the upper hand and stuff. I can tell you too, like, this is how it is with Matt. Matt, you hear the relationship with Matt and his brother. What happens is Matt's that person. Matt's the woman. Matt's the scorned woman. Matt's the scorned lover. And these people act out in weird ways. These are really evil people and stuff, right? And so you can hear the relationship of how Matt talks about his brother. What would happen is Matt would lie and say his brother did this, and then Matt would see how his parents reacted. And when his parents attacked the brother and nurtured Matt, you're okay. That makes Matt feel superior over his brother. Makes Matt feel superior over his parents, how he's getting over on them. That's why he continues to do it. That's what drives his brother mad and forces his brother into drug addiction. Matt caused that. Matt is the demon. Matt is the evil one here. That's why Matt will not stand up and fight for Michael Jackson. And what he actually does is he takes his homosexual pedophile lover, Eric Blade, and they come up with some story that I guess they had seen from somewhere else, and of course they're going to use that story because that guy doesn't have to defend himself. They don't have to challenge that guy. They can't be proven wrong. Of course that's the story they're going to endorse and stuff, right? Because that's the whole world. They don't want to be challenged. But they actually endorsed a story saying that Beat It was about homosexual gangs kidnapping young boys and forcing them to play a Beat It masturbation game. And you actually think that Michael Jackson would write a song about that. You guys are freaking nuts, right? But Matt, instead of him dealing with the reality of my work, he comes out and promotes that and puts it on him and puts it out to all the kids in the public saying, this is who Michael Jackson is. He's writing Beat It. It's about masturbating young children. And you people don't think I've got the right to call him a pedophile? You guys are freaking ridiculous. And every single person that goes on Matt's live stream, you'll see that they're all defective human beings too. Every single one of them. They're all defective. That's why misery loves company, and that's why they all join into Matt's thing, because all of them want to get on there, and the one thing they don't do is call each other losers, because that's what they are. The whole purpose of that is they're all losers, so they join together and they make fun of other people, because that's how the only way they can deal with themselves as being the losers is they have to not talk about the losers they are. They have to talk about everybody else in the world. That's what Matt is, an SJW. Matt doesn't even understand he's an SJW. What they have a thing that says every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Okay, so you have a liberal SJW and you have a conservative SJW. That's Matt. Matt's the conservative SJW. He doesn't understand. It's an equal and opposite reaction. There's a SJW, a liberal SJW, and there's a conservative SJW. Matt is a conservative SJW, but doesn't matter if you're liberal or conservative. They're the SJW people who never wants to take any blame on themselves and understand their part in making the world a worse place of what it is. They want to always put the blame onto other people. They're frauds, they're total losers, they're scumbag morons, and they're definitely not Michael Jackson fans. They are the Michael Jackson enemies. Michael Jackson fucking hated those fucking pathetic scumbag losers. They're losers. Michael Jackson, talk about heal the world, care about people. Michael Jackson didn't care about those fucking losers. When you're an adult and you're still that kind of piece of shit moron, Michael Jackson knows there's nothing that he could ever do to fix some kind of scumbag losers like that. There's nothing he can do. They are losers. Michael hated those fucking people. And somehow, these have got the people that are here stealing from Michael Jackson. What are they? They're all stealing from Michael Jackson now. They're horrible. And why do you think they don't like me? Because they're frauds. They're idiots. They're thieves. They're losers. They're scumbag, trash, pedophiles, freaking fake Michael Jackson fans. All of them, man. Screw the whole fucking Michael Jackson community. You guys are the enemy.